The tranquil suburban streets of Pine Valley, a place Clayton Briggs, a 22-year veteran of the Secret Service, had chosen for his peaceful retirement, were about to become the unlikely stage for a battle of wits, wills, and wildly misjudged authority. It all began on a deceptively ordinary morning. Clayton, clad in a retired secret agent t-shirt, a humorous birthday gift from his son, was in the midst of cleaning his vintage Winchester rifle collection, a perfectly legal and meticulously maintained hobby. Suddenly, his quiet cul-de-sac was a sea of flashing blue lights, 3 police cars, and pointing a finger at his house with the dramatic flair of a B-movie villainess was Lauren Whitaker, the newly minted, power-hungry president of the Pine Valley Homeowners Association. "That's him, officer," Lauren shrieked to the arriving sergeant, her voice a shrill siren call of manufactured outrage. "This man is clearly violating our community safety policies by storing dangerous weapons in a residential area." Her wrinkled business skirt, scuffed pumps, and hastily applied lipstick betrayed a woman desperately trying to project an authority she didn't possess. She clutched a manila folder, overflowing with what appeared to be hastily drafted emergency regulations with suspiciously similar signatures, like it contained the Dead Sea Scrolls of HOA omnipotence. Clayton, his Secret Service training kicking in, remained calm, his movements slow and deliberate. He invited the officers in, Lauren trailing uninvited, her heels clicking an irritating staccato on his hardwood floors. As the officers professionally, if somewhat sheepishly, inspected his gun safe, licenses, and permits, Lauren's eyes darted around his home, cataloging perceived infractions. The officers, however, seemed more intrigued by the photos on Clayton's mantle, pictures of him standing alongside various presidents and international dignitaries, a silent testament to his distinguished career. The inspection, predictably, found everything in perfect legal order. "Everything looks good here, Mr. Briggs," the sergeant stated, shooting Lauren a look that could curdle milk. Lauren's face cycled through shades of pink, red, and purple. "But surely there must be some violation. No one needs that many guns," she sputtered. The sergeant, with the weary patience of a man who had seen too many Karens, informed her that Mr. Briggs had broken no laws. As the officers departed, Lauren lingered, her folder clutched so tightly her knuckles were white. "This isn't over, Mr. Briggs," she hissed. "We have policies, and I intend to enforce them." Clayton, noting her complete failure to register the message on his t-shirt, couldn't help but smile. Lauren Whitaker had just picked a fight with a man who'd spent his career dealing with threats far more sophisticated than a failed real estate broker with delusions of grandeur. The game was on. Lauren's first move was a formal HOA violation notice, emailed with metadata revealing its late-night 17 revision creation from a computer-registered 2L, Whitaker Real Estate Solutions. This wasn't an established HOA. It was a desperate power grab. Clayton, leveraging his investigative skills, quickly unearthed Lauren's history. A suspended real estate license for misrepresentation, a messy divorce detailing controlling behavior and lost custody, and a current pre-foreclosure status on her Pine Valley home. She wasn't just an HOA tyrant. She was a woman whose life was imploding, seeking control wherever she could find it. He then sought out Franklin Grady, the previous HOA president. Franklin, a soft-spoken retired teacher tending his immaculate garden, ironically cited by Lauren for grass height violations, recounted how Lauren had orchestrated a coup. At an emergency session, she'd presented fabricated evidence of his financial mismanagement, photocopied bank statements, accusations of kickbacks, and, with the support of a few easily manipulated or drama-hungry newer residents, Marcus Chun, Diana Foster, and Robert Kim, had him ousted. Lauren hadn't won an election. She'd seized power. Franklin revealed that Lauren was now using these allies as her personal surveillance network, assigning them tasks like monitoring lawn maintenance and digging up dirt on residents she disliked. Lauren's next salvo was a mass email to all Pine Valley residents, a masterpiece of inflammatory innuendo, using doctored photos that made Clayton's modest home look like an armed fortress, and language carefully crafted to imply danger concerning activities, potential safety risks. Without making legally actionable accusations, she launched a whisper campaign designed to isolate and demonize him. She even included fabricated testimonials from concerned neighbors. Lauren Whitaker, failed realtor, was a natural-born propagandist. Clayton, meticulously documenting her every digital misstep, decided it was time to counter. He called her bluff, inviting her to an emergency community safety meeting she had convened. The Pine Valley Community Center buzzed with an anxious energy fueled by Lauren's fear-mongering. Lauren, at the front with her table of manila folders, launched into her pre-rehearsed diatribe about stockpiled weapons and suspicious activities, her presentation replete with manipulated charts and photos. When she finished, Clayton, in his retired secret agent t-shirt and carrying a significantly thicker folder, calmly walked to the front. "Thank you for that creative presentation, Miss Whitaker," he began, his voice resonating with quiet authority. He then addressed the elephant in the room. His 22-year Secret Service career, his extensive training, and the impeccable legality of his vintage rifle collection, all verified by the recent police visit. He distributed copies of his federal firearms licenses, storage inspection certificates, letters of commendation, and character references. The mood in the room shifted palpably. He then presented recordings of his interactions with Lauren and copies of all correspondence, laying bare her manipulative tactics. Residents began questioning Lauren's documentation, her methodology, the very basis of her emergency. Marcus Chun, Diana Foster, and Robert Kim, visibly embarrassed, approached Clayton afterward, apologizing for being duped. Lauren had overplayed her hand, but people like Lauren don't concede defeat, they escalate. Within 48 hours, Clayton received a call from Detective Alyssa Monroe of the County Sheriff's Department. Multiple complaints, anonymous tips, surveillance photos, claims of weapons stockpiling, suspicious behavior, even suggestions of PTSD-fueled violence had been filed against him, triggering a more thorough investigation. Lauren had hired a private investigator and was now attempting to weaponize federal authorities, filing reports with the ATF and contacting the FBI with vague concerns about domestic security threats. Detective Monroe and 2 federal agents arrived. As Clayton presented his credentials and service records, Detective Monroe's expression changed. She recognized his face from the commendation photos. "Clayton Briggs," she said slowly, "were you part of the security detail for Governor Patterson's visit to the state fair in 2019? The memory clicked. Clayton had tackled her. Then Officer Monroe, out of the path of a domestic terrorist with a bomb vest, saving her life, and likely many others. The federal agents exchanged knowing glances. This investigation had just taken a very personal turn. Detective Monroe revealed the nature of the reports, a comprehensive fiction about Clayton's supposed mental instability, his descent into paranoia and aggression, meticulously crafted to exploit concerns about veterans. Lauren's PI had provided real photos, utterly misrepresented. Cleaning weapons became obsessive behavior. Working in his garage became suspicious late-night activities. It was character assassination by 1,000 cuts. The federal investigation, while ultimately vindicating Clayton, had achieved one of Lauren's goals, an official record of inquiries that could be used against him later. Lauren's harassment then turned to petty vandalism. His mailbox damaged, tires slowly punctured, items moved in his shed. She had crossed from community troublemaker to genuine criminal threat, but she had also, crucially, brought Detective Monroe into her orbit. 3 weeks into this relentless campaign, Clayton, sleep-deprived and under immense stress, considered selling his house. The woman who had lost everything was succeeding in making him an outcast. Then, Detective Monroe called with a bombshell. "Lauren Whitaker isn't just filing false reports about you," she stated. "She's part of a pattern. We've found similar complaint patterns in 3 other cities where she's lived. Always targeting single men living alone, always escalating to federal investigations, always ending with the targets moving away. Lauren was a predator, a serial destroyer of lives, who weaponized her victims' backgrounds, veterans, retired law enforcement, against them. Her psychological profile was fascinatingly terrifying, targeting men who reminded her of figures who had disappointed her, isolated enough not to cause community outcry, yet visible enough to irritate her sense of control. But Monroe also brought hope. The FBI had opened an investigation into Lauren's own complaint patterns, viewing it as organized harassment with intent to interfere with federal investigations. Lauren's greatest strength, her ability to manipulate federal resources, was about to become her undoing. Working with Monroe and her FBI contacts, Clayton learned Lauren researched federal databases to tailor her false reports, timing escalations for maximum psychological impact, while staying just within perceived legal limits. Her confidence, however, bred recklessness. She expanded her attacks. Franklin Grady faced fabricated complaints about his landscaping company. Marcus Chun was reported to the IRS. Diana Foster received a visit from Child Protective Services based on anonymous reports of neglect. Lauren had weaponized child welfare investigations. The most disturbing escalation was yet to come. Monroe received a call from FBI counterterrorism specialists, reports of a domestic terrorist cell in Pine Valley, with specific claims against Clayton. Weapons stockpiling, surveillance, threats to government officials. This terrorism report was Lauren's masterpiece of manipulation and her fatal mistake. In her zeal to make the most damaging accusations, she included details about Clayton's daily routines, home security, and private activities obtainable only through systematic, illegal surveillance and trespassing. She had, in effect, confessed to stalking and multiple privacy violations while trying to frame him for terrorism. The FBI immediately recognized this. Detective Monroe and her federal colleagues began building a systematic harassment and abusive process case against Lauren, encompassing her multi-state pattern of predation. The plan for Lauren's downfall was elegant. Give her exactly what she wanted: a dramatic federal response to her terrorism report. 3 FBI vehicles and 2 police cars descended upon Clayton's house. Lauren, positioned across the street, with a camera and a local news reporter she'd tipped off, eagerly awaited Clayton's arrest. But the FBI agents, led by a now-promoted Detective Monroe, weren't there for Clayton. They used his property as a staging ground. Monroe, greeting Clayton like an old friend, thanked him for his invaluable cooperation. Lauren's confusion was palpable as Monroe and 2 FBI agents crossed the street towards her. "Lauren Whitaker," Monroe announced, her voice ringing with authority. "You're under arrest for filing false federal reports, systematic harassment, and abuse of law enforcement resources." The news camera Lauren had summoned now recorded her handcuffing. Monroe addressed the stunned neighbors, assuring them of their safety and revealing Whitaker's multi-state campaign of false reporting. The crowd's reaction was intense: relief, anger at being manipulated, embarrassment. The news report that evening painted Lauren not as a hero, but as a criminal. Previous victims came forward. Franklin Grady was reinstated as HOA president by unanimous vote. Marcus, Diana, and Robert publicly apologized for being manipulated. Lauren Whitaker was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison followed by probation prohibiting any HOA involvement. Her house was foreclosed. Her life, built on the destruction of others, was in ruins. 6 months later, Pine Valley was healing. A new, friendly family moved into Lauren's old house. Clayton, still wearing his retired secret agent t-shirt, found peace. The HOA, under Franklin's guidance, implemented reforms. The experience, Clayton reflected, taught him that evil can wear a veneer of civic responsibility, but also that justice, though sometimes slow, finds those who abuse power, especially when they underestimate a quiet retiree with a lifetime of experience in bringing down far more dangerous adversaries.